So we're talking about the relationship between, and generally about experiences, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and values. So how do they all relate? And I know it's quite a wide topic, but I think there's like quite a sort of hierarchical pattern there, starting with experiences, and that's why I put it in that order. So,
will you repeat that again, please, Matt?
Yeah, sure. Just a second. Right, so we're talking about the relationship between experiences, beliefs, values, thoughts, and emotions. So basically, from my experience, beliefs are formed by experiences, values come from the beliefs, and then the thoughts and emotions are triggered by all those things as well as stimuli. So, and how you think. But, you know, that's just from my deep thinking about it. You know, I want to hear what everyone else thinks. I've lined up some questions as well, as always. We've got, we had one person watching, because we're not professional enough for it. Right, let's have a look. So yeah, really what we've been doing, just to catch you up, so is we've been talking about transformation really, and the things people need to understand to go on their transformational journey, so to speak. And so that's what the aim of all these shows are. We broadcast them live in the hope that people watching get major benefit from it, but then we also put them onto social media, onto YouTube, and eventually they'll be on Anchor FM, which is connected to Spotify and also Apple Podcasts as well. So that's the overall goal. So I'm going to start now. So hello everybody, and welcome to the Conscious Creators Community episode 2 of season 1. We're talking about transformation and the things you need to transform or change your life. Specifically today, we're here to talk about the relationship between experiences, beliefs, values, thoughts, and emotions, how they relate and how you can understand them a bit better. These things are an important part of creating a better life and making permanent, lasting change, starting to do things a bit differently, and starting or continuing your transformational journey. And I said this last time, but the term transformational journey may sound a bit daunting to some, but it's just making positive change in your life. So identifying what you really want and making it happen. It's about creating and embracing an empowering life. So perhaps a life that you've never experienced before, or one that you want to experience again if you've had a traumatic experience. So it's great to see some people watching now. Thank you for joining us. So I'd like to let everybody introduce themselves. Just in case you don't know, I'm Matt Love. I'm your host. I'm the initiator, but not the creator of the Conscious Creators Community. And I am a visibility and empowerment coach for entrepreneurs. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves, I'm going to go around left to right from my screen. Anna, you're first on my screen.
Okay, yeah. My name is Anna Doria Quesada. I am an artist and a mentor, and I like to call myself a visual story activator. I help people figure out what their real story is through visual art.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Jennifer, you're next on my screen.
I'm Jennifer. I am a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, talk therapist, and educator. And I help people perfect their inner world and feel really happy on the inside.
Thank you. And Syl, you're next on my screen.
I'm Syl Sabastian. The WOI stands for Way of Impeccability, which is my prime program. And I run extensive life change and self-change programs, typically starting at a minimum of 4 months. So I really get into the detail of it. And Way of Impeccability is the prime program of those.
Brilliant. Thank you, Syl. And Joey, you're next.
Okay. Oh, I'm unmuted already. Good.
Yes, today you are.
I'm Joeann Costa. I created the Presence Manifest method I'm an applied energetic philosopher, sometimes mentor, sometimes teacher, sometimes energy practitioner. And my mission in life right now is to just elevate the level of presence overall in the world, one by one.
Awesome, thank you. And Priscilla, you're next on my screen.
Good morning, I'm Priscilla Pasimio. I'm in Delta, Colorado, and I'm currently a cellular health coach. And I share advances in natural healing, focused on cell protection and performance. And my current passion right now is to educate people on the heavy metals, the toxic burden in our bodies, and how you can remove them from the body.
Love that, thank you. Yeah, I've seen your posts about that. And so Sander, you're next on my screen.
Yeah, had to find the unmute button. My name is Sander. I'm a body worker, embodiment coach from the Netherlands. I help people be more in their body and be more in this world. As the body is the vehicle to move around on this planet. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. And then Gabe, you're next on my screen.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see you too.
I'm Gabriel, Emotional Freedom Techniques practitioner, energy healing practitioner. And I work primarily with educators because I am an educator, and I work with students and educators alike with the modalities of EFT, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And I help people de-stress, get out of their own way and, let that energy flow. I mean, just allow yourself to thrive in a elevated state instead of one that keeps us down and feeling heavy. And happy to be here and contribute as much as I can.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to have you all here as well, and really good. Beena, are you with us? Are you able to unmute?
Okay, yes. Okay,
Hi.
so my camera was doing some funny things, so that's why I stopped it. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Matt, for inviting me here, because this is so brilliant. I feel really good to be here. My introduction is that I am system network analyst and also that I'm in astrology. I call myself, and some of my friends also call me reluctant astrologer, because I do have and I do stuff, but it's in a different way. So I call it abstract astrology, which includes a bit more than astrology, of course. Also that I'm learning. I call myself a power learner because I'm here to learn and share. For me, it's all about sharing. It's nothing to teach and nothing to actually helping and all these things, because these two concepts are a bit contradictory to what I have learned through Way of Impeccability and other modes program. So for me, it's all about sharing. And of course, I am a co-facilitator in Way of Impeccability program. And I have been doing some other stuff also, like I was working at Arts Council of Pakistan and working backstage, assisting people. So this is my whole life right now. And for me, every day starts with the one sentence for like 4 years now, what I'm going to learn today. And believe me, that universe is so generous, so generous. So I am just learning from all of you guys, all of my friends, and from the universe also. And I share my experiences, my understanding and awareness with people.
Awesome. Yeah, brilliant. And actually, you've done well to lead me on there. So it's a bit of a broad question, but for people out there, what is an experience? What is an experience? So, I think, it's something that happens to us. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't have to be, if we often labeling experiences is not very helpful for us. So, what is it that people struggle with overcoming and getting closure on experiences and being haunted by experiences? Is there anything there that people can share? No?
Well,
Yeah.
exciting.
Gabe, sure. Oh, Anna spoke. Yeah.
Yeah, just to start it off, experience is what we come into this world to have.
Nice. Yeah, very true.
We cannot, life is all about experiences.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And Gabe?
So an experience is something that we draw to ourselves, and again, based on emotional energy. So we have a thought, and our thoughts are correlated with an emotion. And depending on how strong that emotion is, the amplitude of that emotion, okay, will be broadcast out to the universe. And our hearts, being magnetic, they draw that experience back to us, based on that strong emotion. So a good example of that is when we love doing something, we do it so well, we are drawing that experience, back towards us, as an end product of, of the experience that we're having. So that's what an experience is based on my experience.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to add that in the same way, when we love something, we draw it towards ourselves. In the same way, when we don't like something and we constantly think about it, we can draw it towards ourselves and often end up living in recurring painful circumstances, which is what a lot of people suffer with and need to start a transformational journey. Still, go for it. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I'm just in the habit of, like a good point. But yes, I did actually want to add something. From my perspective, experiences, we can experience them and have them. And yes, that's cool and that's nice. But I feel if we make the effort to add onto that and develop the habit or the mindset and develop the tools to process the experience, now we can start to extract value from the experience. And now we can get somewhere so that our experience leads not only to learning and growth, but also if we look at past experiences, that we get to resolution, which is to me very critical. And this word resolution is a very big deal. Not solution, but resolution. Like a detective can be resolved on a case that they haven't solved. They've done everything they can, they close it, it's a cold case. They resolve, but it's not necessarily solved. So resolution includes solution or not. It's a very profound word. And if we take our experiences in this context, we start with processing, extracting meaning. In the end, we come to resolution, and we also come to transformation, which is where we at, right? So we want to take our experiences and have this profound capital P process that leads to transformation eventually and real change. Yes?
Brilliant. Thank you. And Sandy, you wanted to add something as well.
Yeah. We're talking about it, experience, but that's something we label it. A thing that is happening is just happening. And it's also the story that we put on to the happening itself. That's becoming our experience. So somebody might experience that there is a happening, and somebody might experience joy, but for somebody else, it might be painful. So the story that we create around the happening, that is what we call the experience. That's how I see it. Yeah,
I love that. And I see the way you've almost tied it to the emotions there, which is what we're here to understand, is how these things
because the experience itself, have you ever experienced that already implies that there is an emotion or that there are emotions going on. While if there are no emotions, it's just something happening. It's our interpretation from the happening itself that becomes the experience, and then we attach the emotion.
Yeah. So
on the storytelling part, we actually have hardware. Our brain is hardwired to process our experience into story.
Yeah, correct.
Happens automatically. It's a very big deal to be aware of.
Yeah.
Everything gets storyfied, in other words.
Right. And this is kind of like how we start forming our beliefs and even principles, is we're storifying the experiences. And then when similar things happen, or we start telling ourselves these stories. Anna, you wanted to add something?
Yes. Yeah, just to follow up on Sander and Syl. Life is experience, and experience is life. When we come into life, what we experience is mostly out of our control. Things just happen to us. And the story starts when we can put words into what we are experiencing. And as soon as we can, master language, we start making stories about it. And what we remember of our experiences is more connected to how we felt at the time than what actually was happening. And this is where, childhood traumas come into play. And it takes a while for us to figure out that we are telling a story. And a lot of times we're telling a story that's a story that was told us, that we inherited from our parents, the place where we live, the culture that we grew up in, the religion that was taught to us. It's all mixed up in somebody else's or something else's interpretation of what our experience is. We become authors of that story when we realize that it's not our story.
Yeah, so I think, you made an interesting point there about how we get caught up in others' opinions of the story.
So when that happens, when we become aware that we're living a story and it's not our story, that's when wisdom comes. That's when experience turns into wisdom.
Yeah.
Because then we can self-reflect and realize, oh, wait a minute, I actually have control over this, and life is not happening to me, but it can happen for me.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Sander, did you want to add something to me? Oh, you're muted, Sander. Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to add something to what Anna said about the stories and which we pick up as children. I experienced that myself when we had two foster kids living with us, and we always were really open, and just when they fell, we had something like, oh, you just fell. We didn't make a drama about it. We had some older friends visiting us, and the girl fell, and the one of her friends, she just had something like, "Ooh!" She was in shock that she fell.
Mm-hmm.
The child fell, and the child immediately reacted to the shock. So if you do that every time as a parent, for instance, with your child, then falling becomes an experience of something shocking. While we always just said what was happening, like, oh, you just fell. And there's nothing wrong with falling down when you're learning to walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, absolutely. So this is how, again, it's forming the beliefs.
And that's how you take on stories from other people.
How to react and what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard parents actually blaming something for what happened. Like, so if the child hits its head on the table, they go, bad table, to make the child feel better. I'm like, it wasn't the table's fault.
Key points for that are three key conceptions there: emphasis, cueing, and associations. Emphasis literally rewires the brain and to form new pathways, new neurons. So we have to be very careful what we emphasize. And of course, when the child falls down and you have, oh, you poor thing, and you make a big fuss, I call it big dealifying it. You now are emphasizing that pathway to get that reward through association with the sympathy and the empathy. And if you watch children, particularly, it's a great example of the falling down. I use it all the time. Watch children when they fall down the first time, or when they're young. They'll actually kind of look to see the cueing of what's going on. They'll look at the parent or the authors. And if they see a concerned expression, they'll start crying. If they see nothing, they'll just get up and walk again. And so we cue them through our behavior on how to behave. So when we put all three of those together, we have a very different association and understanding of experience. Very profound.
Yeah, because we're projecting our own emotions, our own feelings about it. So for instance, if a child encounters something for the first time, the child's reaction to it or response to it depends on the parent's reaction or response. So for instance, if you see a snake and you jump, ah, it's a snake, the child is going to associate the snake with fear. If you say, oh, look, it's a snake, what an interesting thing, let's keep distance in case it's poisonous, but it's just another thing, another being, then the child will associate snakes that way. So it really, it's a learned, the way we handle experiences is a learned process.
Yeah, and the beliefs we form from the experiences are often not our beliefs. I think Jennifer really wanted to add something as well here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's about perception, right? Like our experiences will determine where we land with our perception of current and future events. So experiences are always happening, whether we engage in a negative or positive way. This is an experience, you know, this conversation, the people watching, they're having the experience of watching. Everything is an experience. And it's true what you said about children 100%. Like all children will look towards the adults around them to see how they're supposed to respond to things. So a lot of times, like things like fear and anxiety and phobias can be a learned behavior. If we see parents that are always nervous and, you know, and the child learns, okay, this is how I'm supposed to be experiencing this too. But our perception, we do have a choice in how we perceive things, but we have to consciously look at how we feel about each experience and why. You know, but that can be changed, but our experiences will determine our perception of future experiences. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I love it. So
the key word there, supposed to or should. When we really look closely at supposed to and should, to me, they're quite horrible because these prompt us to behave in ways which we can do without even realizing it. So we end up inadvertently behaving according to somebody else's idea of how to live. And to me, this is completely against the whole idea of conscious creation, or at least within my vocabulary, deliberate living. You know, I want to live deliberately. When I'm living according to should or supposed to, I'm living according to somebody else, and I'm living their life. And you can't really be real or authentic or genuine. You can't have your own self realness if you're living somebody else's life. It's very key to not.
Yeah. And that determines whether you live your life in fear or in curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah. In pursuit of moreness or escape from fear or unknown. It's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm just Beena, you wanted to add something before I
Yes, thank you so much for sharing such beautiful insights, and especially Jennifer, when you were saying about that everything is experience. Because Matt, your question, as I hear it, it was like, okay, what is experience? Everything else comes later. Our beliefs, our perspectives, and everything comes later. But first, it is just experience. And for me, anything in our sensory world which makes some sort of impression on our senses is just experience. And it is pretty abstract and raw. It is not connected to any kind of perspectives and beliefs and all that. It all comes later, as you guys were sharing that, okay, yes, from the cueing, from external learning and all these things. But experience itself is pretty raw. And it is not about right or wrong. It is just that, yes, the experience is happening and I was experiencing all that. It doesn't have to be right, wrong, valid or not, but just an experience. And this was the question. When you guys were sharing about it, is all, I think that it was for me, because I want to learn more about that it was a step forward to that. I'm experiencing something, which is right now my understanding of that experience. That, okay, yes, I might be feeling hot here. You guys, of course, not feeling there because it is a completely different thing. But that experience is just something, and I'm going to build some perspective about that. And then, of course, people build beliefs also that. For us, in our vocabulary, belief is actually not existing. We call it trust, because beliefs are complete surrender, which is, okay, not in alignment with the deliberate living. But Jennifer, especially when you were sharing about this thing, I was super agree with that, okay, everything is experience, and it is very abstract, it is very raw, that okay, no, not connected, not associated to any belief or perspective. Everything comes later. First, the experience. We are the one who actually named it or tagged it or just branded with something like, okay, this is the good, bad, right, wrong, everything. Everything comes later. Experiences are actually just an impression on our senses. And please correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm open to this.
No, I agree. Yeah. I'm just, my point is that the experiences are often, when we label them, what causes us to form beliefs, or as we've been talking about here, when people label them for us when we're younger. And often we grow up with the not actually looking at whether this is our belief from an experience, or whether this is an experience we actually want to have again and again and again. Syl, did you want to add something?
Oh, I was kind of agreeing with you there. Yes, just a good point. But yes, well, to say either how we experience the frame of perception or the contextual understanding is critical to what we understand. For instance, for me, a big part of what I'm sharing is attunement, and also the meaning and point and purpose of why we're doing things, which is enhancement and development of awareness. Within that perspective, that framework, now every experience becomes meaningful. And the key point I want to make is that when we have this greater understanding of connectivity or meaning or purpose, it changes how we experience, right? We can then get meaning from it or not. But if you're just going through life, experience to experience, they don't really accumulate anything, and it's just an experience. There's no particular value to it or usefulness. But when it's connected to some sort of meaningfulness, then you can extract value and usefulness. And it leads to progression and change and growth, and of course, ultimately.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'm just going to go backwards a little bit, because in my practice, I'm focusing on removing what I call experiential residue. And so how I experience is that, for me, if I was to define it, it's kind of a set of data, right? That's created by our mind, body, and soul interacting with external stimulus, right? So it's like, it is very scientific, kind of like Beena said, where for me, experience, it's like, if you look at any experience, it's like a specific recipe of that moment. And it contains what you learned in that moment, what you were feeling in that moment, the temperature in that moment, the atmosphere you're in, your perception up to that date of that moment. It's like every single second has its own little matrix of connection between you as a soul and the environment we're living in. So experiences, in my experience, are like little, little snapshots of human existence.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for me, like, experiences are things we're always going to live with. And so when they do form beliefs and things, if we either often form beliefs based on somebody else's opinion when we're younger, or based on belief, or form beliefs about the experience based on information that we've gathered that's not actually supporting us, we tend to think we've forgotten those beliefs or block those beliefs, but they're always there. They're never gone. And for myself, recently, I've been working through a lot of things over the years, and I can now remember back to like 4 years old in detail. Visually, everything. I can picture houses, how my room was, how people looked, experiences I had. And the more I work through and discover things where I've kind of not resolved an experience, as you said, not got closure on an experience, the more I remember every experience. And they all unite to empower me to go forward. And I think like one of the things is that experiences are always good. They're there to learn something from. They're there to tell you something. Yeah, Priscilla.
Yeah, I really like what Jennifer said. I was thinking the same thing. It really is about perception, right? We all have the experience, but it's how we look at it, and we get to choose what we believe. Is this happening to me, or is it happening for me? Right? Like what Anna said. And it's a great place to be, because we continue to have the experiences, and then we can stay in that higher vibration, you know, maybe take a step back and look at the experience and see that maybe it, you know, I mean, is it wrong, or is it right? Or is it just an experience that's happening for me? Something that I need to learn, something there for me to see.
That's what I'm saying. The lessons, there's something in it. How can I make this happen again? Or how can I not make this happen again? If we don't enjoy it. Syl, did you want to say something, I think, or Anna? Sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what Priscilla is talking about. You can only get to that point of choice if you can actually understand and manage the emotions that go with that experience. Most people are not really aware of how their emotions run their lives. I mean, I know this from experience because I've always been a really extremely emotional person, and I didn't know what was happening to me most of the times, because the memory of what emotion was connected with that experience kept infringing on my new experiences. So awareness comes in when you can separate the emotional story from the actual happening.
Yeah,
that takes work.
Yeah,
It's a big point here. I call it a feeling belief loop, and those can become an infinity loop. So to give an example of, there's a relationship, or I'll give an example in a moment. There's a relationship between feelings and beliefs, and it's a profound relationship, and it's very powerful to understand it, because we can get trapped in that relationship and assume these are the only two options, and their relationship can also trap us. For example, you go to the child's room and they're afraid, and it's dark at night, you know, and they're afraid. Well, why are you afraid? And they don't really want to say, so they don't really know why they're afraid. In that moment of asking them, they need this, by implication in your question, when you say why, there has to be a reason. So now, immediately in that moment, they create the reason. Well, there's a monster under the bed. So now, you know, in their mind, though, they so, well, there has to be, because I'm afraid. I can't see the monster, but it has to be. It's this implicative logic. Now, as this goes along, though, the belief that there's a monster in the bed gets reinforced by the fear feeling. Well, of course there's a monster in the bed. Why? Because I'm feeling afraid, and my fear is real, which now makes the belief real. And yes, I'm short-circuiting this. You know, it's a complex process, happens over time, but can happen fairly quickly too. But when we understand that the feeling creates the belief, and likewise, you can start with the belief. The kid hears about monsters and this, well, it must be the monster. And now the belief, I have to be afraid because there's such a thing as monsters. So a belief can also create fear, the feeling. And this can happen with all kinds of feelings, not just fear, but they tend to start reinforcing each other. And if we just look at life around us, we see how people's emotions, feelings are supported and reinforced by beliefs. And this is very profound. This is very big deal. And then to see how this can keep reinforcing, where we disassociate and understand that there are other things that we can do beside feelings and beliefs. We can process information in other ways, and we can add that. So it's a very powerful understanding to it.
And I think that was a really good example, I think, of the children under the bed, because often a lot of children don't know why they're afraid of the monster under the bed. But I've learned something that a lot of parents actually say that to keep the children in the bed.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah. And so they actually implant this seed in the child's mind that forms the belief that then keeps them in bed through fear, not knowing what they're actually doing emotionally to that child for the rest of their life. there's a couple of people want to speak. So if you all want to just try your best, I'm happy with that. You know, anybody? Anna, go on. You've got your hand up, so I'll let you.
Yes, so this is a really interesting point of looking at how beliefs and emotions relate in childhood, because yes, we can have a belief and then have an emotion connect with that, or we can have an emotion and associate a belief with it. And as adults, we can actually use that to our advantage, because how we feel is how we will experience. And our beliefs also can influence how we experience that experience, or how we have an emotion in that experience. So we can actually make ourselves call up experiences to ourselves that serves us by combining those two things, our emotion or our intention and our power of really believing in something, really wanting to be in that place, in that experience. So it's, you know, from childhood to, and in childhood, what the child actually experiences is how well the parent or the caregiver co-regulates the child, because children have emotions and they cannot really understand what they're feeling until an adult comes in and either validates or soothes or enhances that emotion.
Yeah,
And give them a story.
Yeah, so I just
essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll give them the story of some sort. And I think, but also this is a time where when adults are negatively reinforcing things, or parents are negatively reinforcing things, it's an example of where they haven't got closure on their own experiences. And so they can pass that on. Gabe, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, a lot. There's so much going on here. My mind is swaying from so many valid key points. But the one thing that comes to mind for me is, you know, thoughts and emotions. Okay. Between the age of 0 and 7, this is the imprint era of our lives. This is where 90% of our, you know, mental development or subconscious programming comes from. And this tells us who we're going to be in the future. So, you know, we learn all these things. Again, the experience we are learning in the womb at the 3rd trimester is something that we're picking up based on external signals, right? And it's all science. And I love the neuroscience behind it, because if mom has a thought, you know, she's creating all the synaptic connections, you know, all the neural circuits and, you know, the whole neurochemical, the whole community that the baby themselves is starting to adapt to these experiences through mom. And when the child is born and up to the age of 7, it's the same thing, you know. The one thing is that they just don't have the consciousness to be able to debate themselves and say, you know, does this right for me? Does this serve me well? They start to understand that when they come into consciousness somewhere around 9, 10, 11 years of age, you know. But the thought process, you know, the language of the brain is thoughts, and the same thing, the language of the body is emotions. And you cannot have one without the other, because they both together, they create that experience in a person. You know, and the science behind it is just overwhelmingly proven that already.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to quickly read some comments. Sandy, you were next. So just going to quickly say, Jen said yes to the last few insights. Mindset by itself is not enough. We have to address the emotional nervous system at the foundation, change its default way of operating. And then David said, society of the spectacle, collective self-reinforcing beliefs. So yeah, not just parents as well. It happens all over the place. You know, the collective are reinforce our beliefs. And when we go out, you know, loads of kids are afraid of being the monster under the bed, back to that example, for example. And they probably reinforce it. They all go around talking about it. Have you heard about that monster under the bed? And then, so Sandra, I'm going to let you talk. And then we've got a couple of questions. So,
yeah, well, I was making tea, so I missed a little bit, but I heard Anna talk, and something that popped into my head also with your monsters under the bed, that's a negative thing. So there's a negative story, but we also know, and I'm not going to name any special events in the year because maybe children are listening. There are also positive stories that are being told to us. And when you find out that those stories aren't true, that also can set up something really negative.
Yeah. So I think you need to.
That's also something that needs to be mentioned here, because even if you get a positive story and it is someone else's story, it might not be your story, and it might even not be true because you've been lied to.
Yeah.
And that can wreak havoc.
Yeah, and when you say story, it's a belief as well, isn't it? It's a belief that
Exactly.
something exists. Yeah, so it becomes a belief, and then suddenly this person who you trust, and maybe multiple people who you trust, have given you this belief, and you get to a certain point, and suddenly you find out it's not true, and you're like, who do I trust now? You know? Yeah. So Syl, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, just another power conception to add to associations, cueing, emphasis, or implications. If we start paying attention to implications, anybody who wants to be smarter and get smarter, there you go. Just pay attention to implications and you're going to become smarter right away. But we don't, as a general rule, really pay attention to implications. And this point about, the lies you told as a child, and all these things that are supposed to be true, but turn not to be true. What are the implications? You're teaching your children that you're a liar and that you can bullshit them. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's astonishing, which of course it's kind of useful though, when you start looking at the defaults of should and shouldn't and supposed to be and all of this stuff. Well, okay, good. I've learned that I shouldn't trust adults, and that helps you to unhook from should. So there's a greater logic sensibility to it. In that context, yes, but not ideal if you want your children to trust.
No, absolutely. I'm just going to quickly jump to the questions here. So Jen, who watches most weeks, is with us, and she said, what is each of your preferred methods for guiding people to discover the unconscious thoughts, pattern, beliefs that are influencing their emotional state? Oh, Gabe's got his gone. Oh, I don't know who's first there. Gabe, go for it.
Okay. Emotional freedom techniques. And I say this only because it is, emotions are always at the root cause of just about every disturbance that we have in life. Everything that we manifest that's not good, down-regulated, physical symptoms like headaches, all the way up to disease. We do this based on thought and feelings. And that's just because we are human beings, we are emotional, energetic beings. So if we have a bad thought and which creates that bad feeling, we're going to rehearse this and do mental rehearsals to the point where we literally make ourselves sick. So EFT does the opposite. It takes your emotional strengths, your elevated emotions, and it allows you to create a healing event that is non-invasive. There's no medical treatments here. There's no surgeries. There's no medications needed. All you need is your own two fingers and learn how to stimulate your meridian point so that your emotional energy can flow from where it's trapped and go back into your heart, so that again your heart can fill up, swell up, signal the brain that it's okay to create now. And this lowers your whole stress response down to basically nothing. And this is healthy. We are innate, or we have the innate ability to heal ourselves based on thought and emotions alone. And that's why I love this modality.
Excellent. Syl, did you want to add something?
On your question, right? The question was about techniques for connecting to the subconscious. Two prime techniques, and these work not only for connecting to other layers of consciousness, but for everything. And the first one is thinking things through to the end. That's the key, to the end. We often think things through, but we don't go to the end. And, you can think something through like 90% of the way, but that last 10% changes everything. And if you don't finish it, you end up with a false conclusion. You've got to go to the end. How do you know when you're at the end? When you say, and what else? And you keep asking what else and you get nothing. Combine this with a second technique, which is perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. We tend to have this default where we look for an answer. We're looking for one. You even see this in science, and it's astonishing. We tend to, for the most part, in everything that happens, the reasons for it are multiple reasons. So when we get into the habit of perspective shifting to multiple perspectives, you start to see things from all the angles. You look at anybody who's an expert in something, who's mastered something, they know it from the bottom, from the inside, from the top, backwards, forwards, every possible way. When we develop this habit as a mindset, as a technique, you start seeing the moreness of things because you're looking at it from all the angles, right? So you go out of the limited contextual bubbles to see the multiple contextual bubbles. Think of that bubbles that come out of your drain when after you wash dishes, and you get those bubbles on top of bubbles. Well, that's awareness, that's life. Not one bubble, it's multiple bubbles on top of bubbles. You can see them all. You start to understand the layerness of stuff and the interconnectedness as well. And this is profoundly useful for exploring anything, never mind just consciousness.
Yeah, and I think it's really like it's one thing that for me is that you also have to really make sure you're looking for your answer. Yeah, because like often you can go and find a million answers out there, and
exactly.
I'd say look at all of them and try and learn to follow intuition to find the answer that works for you. You know, that it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling when you feel good, not just like, and it's so true. Like it's so easy to get 90% of the way through, but until you know you can't go any further.
Yeah, answers, Matt. Answers, plural.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, multiple answers. And
it's very critical because otherwise we find an answer, and yes, it's a valid answer, but there may be more. And sometimes we just stop there because we in this mindset of defaulting to singular. When you're looking for multiple, there might not be, but you don't stop there inadvertently. That's very powerful. Very powerful. Multiple.
Anna.
Yeah. Yes, just wanted to bring another perspective. I hear you still. That we do need to think things through to the end. That helps. However, thinking really doesn't do anything for you if you are not really in control of your emotions. Most people do not even know what kind of emotions they have. They lump everything up into three basic emotions: anger, fear, and happiness. Most people are either angry or not angry, happy or not happy, sad or not sad. And there's a whole spectrum of emotions within those three emotions. And I think that's the first step, is to actually understand your emotional world before you can actually think about it. Once you understand what your emotional world is and you get used to feeling those emotions without having to act upon them and understand them and realize that it's just energy and motion, it comes and it goes, then your analytical mind then can come in and do the thinking, but not before. Your emotional world is something that you understand, something that you can live with, experience, and make sense of for yourself.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think I just want to add that one of the things I found really helpful for doing this was actually in a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's the principles of life. And so he breaks down life into a bunch of principles like religion, family, spouse, self, and actually writing out those principles and then really looking at them and working out, are they your principles or are they somebody else's principles? And what are the ones you want to avoid? What are the ones you don't want to talk about? Oh, that doesn't bother me. That's the one that bothers you the most. Yeah. Oh, that's not important to me, marriage, for example, or your religion, or that's the one that's bothering you the most. So that's the one you really need to write that principle out and work out what it is that's in there, to be honest, because they all affect us every day. So Beena?
Okay, so thank you so much both, Gabe and Syl and Anna. I understand about what Syl was saying about like having multiple perspectives and not looking for a resolution instead of like, okay, just go for more, because this actually eliminates that limitedness, that restriction that, okay, yes, I have found the truth kind of a dilemma. We all have that, but also that emotion thing that what Anna was referring to. And again, of course, what Gabe was talking about, that, okay, there are multiple ways and it's not a one fit for all. This is what I understand that. And again, for me personally, it is coming back to the same thing that, okay, the experience in itself is just experience. And as Joanne, if I'm pronouncing her name right, yes? So when you were saying about, it's about like, okay, our body, our physical existence, it's a process when we collect data. Our senses collect data, and then we have that. And on base of that data, we build other things like perspectives and emotions and all those things, which can be learned, which can be, of course, yes, we would just go to other people and queuing and all through that. So when we are aware that my experience is just my experience, it is not towards any perspective, it is not connected to any belief or idea, it is just the experience right now in that particular specific environment or condition I was having, which is not connected to any perspective and other beliefs and all those things comes later. Only this awareness actually liberate us from all that rigidness that, okay, this is the truth, this is my idea, this is my experience. Once we accept that okay, this is just experience in that particular specific condition, that was it, that's it. So sometimes we say that in most cases, not always, but in many situations, awareness is self-curative. Once you are aware, a lot of things get solved. And when it comes to emotion, yes, and because I have seen that, and I have, of course, observe a lot when people have those things, that emotional turmoil. You cannot just say that, okay, no, whatever you are feeling is wrong. Whatever you are going through is wrong, because they are not in that state of being right now where any other idea can actually comes in, because they are closed. The emotions in energy, in motion is so much overwhelming. It is so overwhelming. When people are into that, it's actually sometimes impossible to give them and share any perspective. So you need something else. And of course, they need to figure it out for themselves. So thank you so much all for sharing. I might have to go a bit early, so that's why I was keen to share, but I will try to stay as much as I can.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly read some comments and then I'll get to Sander. So Jen's put, yes, there's a reason our emotional brain develops before the intellectual brain. It's the foundation of our existence. Our intellect is so much more powerful when coupled with a moderated and flexible emotional experience. And then David said he's got to leave, but we all rock. So thank you, David. That's really awesome. And thanks for staying for the whole show so far. But yeah, I think one of the things that is, is very helpful for us to all communicate here, the labels, the words we use and all these things, but they also create this labeling of experiences which generates the emotions. And I've been, one of the things I see, like I live in Portugal, and in the Portuguese language they have a lot less expressive words than us. There are certain words where they don't have so many ways of expressing happiness, and so many ways of expressing bravery, so many ways of expressing. So it kind of, it's a lot easier to so other people have got to leave. That's fine. We'll be finishing soon anyway. We've had some really good things. So Sander, you wanted to add something, and then I've got another question from the audience.
Well, it was a question that came from the audience that was addressed to us all.
Yes.
And it also ties a little bit into what Anna said. What I do with clients is I use inquiry or self-inquiry, and it's asking open questions. If they come to me with a certain issue, I would start asking open questions regarding that issue. I do the same with myself. If an emotion rises up and I I do not act the emotion out. I just look and observe what's happening, and then things get much clearer. So I start asking myself questions. Hey, I feel this anger. What kind of anger is it? Is it anger because I'm angry at someone else? Is it anger because of the situation? What sort of anger is it? And by doing that, you get deeper and deeper into what's underneath it, and you can start working out and also getting a deeper insight in what's going on, because most of the time the emotion comes from a place we cannot see, so that's subconscious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like a buried memory.
Asking open questions really helps in getting more clarity about what's going on.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Jennifer, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree with what Sandra said about questions. I swear by an intake form, a really thorough intake form that asks the right questions. That way, before that client is even in the session with me, I have some kind of an idea as to what sort of lens they experience the world through and how they see things based on their answers to those questions. Because it isn't always so cut and dry and everybody's different. We're all here in the same place having a different experience. We're based on our sensory communication, our feelings, our past, our all kinds of things. So by asking the right questions before the client even gets to the session, I think that's really important as far as giving me some kind of a clue as to where they're at and how they're seeing things and what needs to be changed. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. Questions, Anna?
Yeah, so I agree with Sander and Jennifer that inquiry is really important. However, not everybody is ready or good at asking questions and being curious. And you, Matt, you asked about, what methods can be used. The method that I use is to engage. So from my perspective, emotions are a body experience. It's not an intellectual experience. We store our emotions in our body. And to access them and to understand them, we have to work with the body. So I use art making, which is a body process. We have to use our bodies to make art, to start that process of curiosity and to activate the creative part of the human. So you start with that. You start engaging yourself in. So one of the things I do is I use color, a color wheel, to get people to understand what kind of emotions do they actually experience. Is it anger or is it annoyance or frustration? And when you use color, because color is a spectrum, and we respond to colors in a very particular way, in our own way. If you work with color, you start to understand, oh, maybe I'm not really feeling red. Maybe I'm feeling orange or yellow orange or yellow green or blue green or purple. And all of those colors have a specific effect on everyone's emotional spectrum. So once you do that, you are the person is not only having a good time, having fun, mixing colors, painting. It's a pleasurable experience. They're also activating their own curiosity about themselves and about how they feel emotions, how they experience emotions. Once you can do that, then you can start making a new story about your experiences, because now you have a new story about your emotional states and you understand a little bit better how emotions manifest through you.
Yeah,
that's
brilliant.
one process. It's not the process. It's
So did
wonderful.
anybody else want to add any of their processes? Otherwise, I've got another question that leads on from that question from Jen. So, and what, if any, is your preferred method for retraining the emotional nervous system? Once you've done the discovery, yeah, Gabe? And
Yes.
I can guess.
Retraining the body or the mind, you know, it's a reconditioning process. So, you know, we have to be aware, you know, everything that we talk about are all key elements to the whole complete package. And having to recondition the body emotionally means that we have to practice awareness of our patterns in life, our behaviors that got us to that point, so that we can, again, start to shift and create the new patterns, the new behaviors, you know, that correlate with that new elevated emotion. But until the body accepts that new training, it's not going to happen, you know, and that's only because people are still trying to learn how to hit the record button on their subconscious brains. You know, our subconscious mind is just a brick. It just serves what we've learned in life. So it's a program. When we learn how to tap into our subconscious and hit that record button to replace those old behaviors, old patterns, it becomes such a joyous event experience, let's call it, in our lives, because the committed, inspired decision has been made for that purpose. I want to shift. I don't want to be that angry guy anymore. I don't want to be that, you know, I have this poverty mentality anymore. I don't want to be the person who feels victimized because I've been bullied, and when I hear a loud noise, I jump. So you have to recondition the body emotionally to become the new mind. And that takes practice and patience, people. You know, when we do emotional stacking over years of our lives, I'm 57. I had a massive amount of emotional stacking over 50 years. Okay, and God knows that I was in total denial. That's not true. I blame this, that, and a third. But when you make that inspired, committed decision to make that shift and retrain your body emotionally, wow, we just learned how to become the creator of our present moment. We literally learn how to self-regulate in a positive state of being. And that takes practice, but it's good practice. I love it. Please love it too.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hurt you to be great. Feel good about yourself. We just have to learn how to do that and practice it. It's like anything else. It's fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And I love it too. Sander, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, just what Gabe said is it takes time also for the body to integrate what has happened. You can understand it intellectually, but understanding it intellectually is not embodying it. And you have to embody it before it can shift and change. And I've seen many examples of that, where people were able to intellectually understand what their problem was, but had to feel what they were doing first before they were able to change it and shift it. That's what I wanted to add. And I think Joey also wanted to say something.
Yeah, Joey?
I'm gonna figure out where that hand button is. It so much, everybody's saying so much every second. It's like there's I guess I wanted to say that that's where I think my modality differs from a lot of different modalities in the idea of reprogramming. So my idea would be to unprogram, but not to reprogram. Like, because I think my personal experience is that any program that I can reprogram myself with is learned from past programming. And so there's sort of like an inherent limitation to deciding what you want to feel and deciding what you want to be and deciding how you want to react. So there's like, I would say that my answer to the second question is that I guess I don't subscribe to that philosophy of actually reprogramming, unless you're reprogramming yourself to
your original state,
non-attachment and ultimate possibility.
Well,
right?
Yeah, no, I've been reading about this week, and actually I've been doing some posts about this, and it's like, ultimately, you shouldn't try and become somebody you're not. You should find out who you were. And reprogramming is really about going back to what you should have been, not what you were made to be, to sort of be accepted or to do these things. And yeah, I've done your method, and I've worked with a couple of people here, and they're similar. They're all different, but yeah, it's a similar thing. I mean, you're getting closure, you're closing the experiences, you're ending the emotional attachment to the experiences in a different way to the way other people are. But EFT is as well, and so yes.
I would like to add, let's not in my book, I do not reprogram people. I just help them see what's been going on, and that what's been going on is not the truth. So, and it's more like a deprogramming of patterns that they took on and aren't theirs.
Yeah.
Or reliving a certain program that they created.
I feel like a lot of us are deprogrammers. Like, we're all about like unraveling the labels, unraveling the programming, finding the subconscious programming and kind of disconnecting it so we can allow possibility and wonder and curiosity to fill in and life to flow. Yeah.
I think I'm just want to add that. Sorry, can I just quickly say to the audience? Sorry, Anna. Go on then, Anna. Go on. Yeah.
Say that again.
I was just trying to say to the audience that this is the point, is that it's not about trying to become somebody you're not. It's about finding out who you are. Yeah. Exactly. Deprogramming is removing the things that.
I wanted to add to what you just said. It's really a remembering. It is not a forgetting of what happened, but a remembering of what you were, who you were before all that stuff happened, before all of the emotional upheaval and baggage was put on you. You came into this world already complete and already a worthy human being. So when we do all of this work of Joey is clearing what's in the past, for Sander is working with the body, and I do the same thing. I work with the body, but in a different way. It is all about clearing the emotional veils that we've been learning to see who we actually started with. It's a return. It's a remembrance. We already have all that knowledge within us.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something to that.
It's kind of polluted because of our life's experiences.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing, is that you talked about the things that other people put on us, but really, like, they're things for us to learn from. They put them on themselves. When somebody does something wrong to you, that's their own burden to carry and not yours. Yeah, it's yours to release and learn. Make sure you don't do that to other people. And often, if you don't do that, you do the thing that it was done to you to somebody else. You know, if you don't get closure on it, you don't release that burden of somebody did something to me, then you actually put energy to it and end up repeating it yourself and attracting more of it into your life, or attracting more of it into your life. So really, people don't do things to us, they do them to themselves. It's no reflection on us what people do to us. We just have to learn how not to get into those experiences again if we didn't like them. And if they happen to us as a child, we must make sure we've resolved them so that we don't let them happen to our children or we can go out and help other people to make sure that it doesn't happen to other children as well. So I just wanted to add that. Does anybody else have anything to add right now? We've got a couple of people joined us here. Joey, you're mute. Sorry.
Oh, I just said I love you all.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I love you all as well. Let's start spreading some love. That's awesome.
Remembering, it's like remembering that we are possibility and not limitations, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. If you're feeling limited by anything, then somebody's probably put that on you, and it's not your belief, because none of us are limited. We are unlimited.
We're remembering that we are creators.
Limitless. Sorry, yeah. So we are all conscious creators. Yeah, and we can do. We created this world up until today. Yeah, we can create a completely different world if we want to after today. We've just got to start working towards it. And it starts with a journey of introspection, as we're talking about, looking in, making sure we are ourselves and all those things. So we're a bit over the hour now. Should we wrap it up for today, or has anybody got anything else they want to add? No? Okay, I'm going to wrap it up for today. A few people have had to leave us anyway. So what an interesting conversation today, talking about experiences. Now, just if you missed it, we're basically, the gist of it was experiences are happening to us every minute or every second of every day. It's only really when we label them, or they're labeled for us, that they start to form beliefs and trigger our emotions and unhelpful thoughts. If you feel you would like to experience more or less of something, look at how you can do it. Ask yourself questions, use self-inquiry. And if that doesn't work, look outside for answers. But make sure you keep looking until you feel there are no more answers. Yeah, never give up. Don't do 90% of the journey, as Syl said. One of the tips I've learned is to observe, accept, allow, and love. So observe yourself, observe your feelings. Don't judge them. Don't be a critic. Accept them. We all have emotions. Allow them and love yourself. Yeah, until you find those answers. It's about uncovering what is you, not trying to become something else. It's not what you've inherited, not what you were given by others, not what people say. It's identifying unhelpful patterns and then returning to your true nature. And trust me, as you can trust all of us, it is so worth it. So absolutely worth it. So thank you all for being here. Sorry those that didn't get a chance to talk, but we're on every week. So join us next Thursday, and we'll be talking more about the transformational journey. And I can't remember the exact topic this week. Sorry about that. But yeah, we'll be talking more about useful things that are really going to help you make your life the best it is, so you can become a conscious creator and create the life you've been dreaming of. Thank you, everybody. We're live. So hello, everybody. If you're watching on Facebook, I'm just going to find the feed myself. Excuse me if I mute.